Okay, I think we'll make a start. Kia ora koutou, everyone, and welcome to our information evening on social work, counselling, social and community leadership, and professional supervision. My name is Sophie Scott-Elvidge, and I am the Postgraduate Recruitment Specialist here at the faculty. I am joined tonight by our Associate Professor Barbara Staniforth and a number of our program leaders. So tonight we're just going to take you through the programs and overview of them. And if we do have time at the end, we'll just go through any questions that you have as well. So I'll just mention there, if you do have any questions, please do use the question and answer box. Yeah, so I will hand over to Barbara now and let's get started. Thank you.
Kia ora koutou, ko Barbara Staniforth tōku ingoa. It's lovely to be here with you this evening, even though we cannot see you. And we just really want to thank you in advance for taking the time to come and learn a little bit about postgraduate study at the Faculty of Education and Social Work, and particularly within the School of Counselling, Human Services and Social Work. I am the Associate Dean Academic in the faculty, and I have had the pleasure of being able to work alongside these fantastic skilled practitioners and researchers and teachers in the school for several years now. And so it is really lovely, again, to be able to have you here with us this evening. So you might be wondering why you would want to come to the Faculty of Education and Social Work. And I suppose I would say, why would anyone not want to? Particularly if you're interested in working with people, in being able to work alongside really the researchers in their fields within Aotearoa and internationally who are really doing the most cutting edge research in terms of the areas that we're working in terms of social work, counseling, professional supervision, and social and community leadership. Each of our instructors also brings with them a wealth of practical experience. And so you're really within our faculty being taught by the people who really bring theory and practice together alongside, again, world-class research. And certainly we would say that within our school and within our faculty that the programs that we teach into are absolutely relevant to current day issues, problems, and situations that are encountered in the world. So if you come and study with us within these programs, you're really looking at particular areas that you're interested in terms of being able to I guess one of the great things about evenings like tonight is that it might actually help you sort through what it is that you're really interested in terms of different areas. And sometimes there's nuance in terms of the different areas and what each will focus on. So again, it's really lucky that we have some of the top people in the field here with us this evening to be able to talk to you about their areas of focus. So in terms of what you can expect from a program within our faculty, certainly it might be useful for you in terms of developing your career, improving your practice, again, helping with that praxis of looking at theory and research and how they interact with one another. And again, becoming part of a community of people who really care about the world, care about people, and really come together and engage in ako with our instructors in terms of you will teach us and you will teach each other, and hopefully we will also be teaching you. So what you will bring is in terms of some of the things that might be impacted by study, but certainly we recognize that studying requires time, and for some of you that might involve decreased hours to give to your social life. And that we make no bones that it will require work. Again, quality programs demand quality work and quality effort, and that's what we will expect of you. But alongside that, we will support you and guide you and really be alongside you in those steps through your next phases of education. So again, this evening, you'll get to hear about a number of different programs that we offer, again, presented to you by our fantastic program leaders. And they will talk to you about how you can staircase your qualifications from a consideration of maybe coming in and doing a postgraduate certificate, a diploma, moving into master's level, or you can start a master's level depending on what your interests are. And again, most of these programs also allow you to move into PhD. And if they don't, then we would help sort out for you what it is that you would need to do if you're interested in that kind of a pathway. So again, this evening is all about getting to hear about the programs that we offered and allow you to ask some questions. So I am fortunate now to hand over to Dr. John Finnerty, who is our program director for our certificate and master's in social and community leadership, which is a fantastic and innovative program. So over to you, John.
Kia ora, Barb. Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be here to talk to you about this program. And there's an embarrassing photo of me talking to mock students down in the bottom of our foyer. So in terms of the program, Sophie, if you can go into that next slide, one of the reasons that we are all excited about the program in the school is because this program was really needed, and we're now into our 6th year of the program, so we've got a lot of students that have gone through, and the program really kind of hit this place, the kind of nexus between the recognition that there's a need for, there's a growing need for social change, and there's a place for a postgraduate qualification for people that are interested in social and community change, who aren't necessarily wanting to do a master's in social work, but might be really interested about researching or doing some more work into that kind of space. So this program kind of sits in that in-between space around people who are looking for a way to contribute to social change, who recognize that leadership is going to be vital if we're going to see change to any of the things that we want to see happening, that people working in these areas who don't necessarily have a social work qualification deserve opportunities to increase their capacity. Equally, for those who are involved in this area, many of them know that evaluation is a key tool that we have to produce social change, and this program has a strong focus on understanding evaluation. We are really passionate about research at the University of Auckland, and we know that it can help achieve change. And this program, for those of you who do the Masters in particular, is a good way to grow your research ability and to contribute to that critical community of change makers who really seek to accelerate change. In terms of the pathways that we've got, this graph demonstrates, and as Barb was saying, our postgraduate certificates are available to many people, and in this case, that requires, there's a few more details on the next slide, but essentially it's available to people that have done a bachelor's degree, ideally with some social science kind of knowledge in it, with a degree of, with 5 GPA in the most advanced courses taken, or people are welcome to go into the certificate if they've done a relevant qualification and have some other work experience. And we take a very expansive and inclusive view into who's able to go into the postgraduate certificate, and it's from the postgraduate certificate that people can then go into doing the masters. So entry requirements then are a bachelor's degree with at least 60 points from an approved university, as well as there's a range of options for students that haven't done a bachelor's degree but would like to do this program. So we do want to kind of let you know that that's available. For the masters, it's possible to go directly into the masters. with a bachelor's degree and a GPA of 5.0. That's a B GPA for courses above stage 2. It's also possible to go in with a GPA less than 60 points as long as you've done the postgraduate certificate and have got a GPA of 5 in that. So many students kind of come to this program many years after they've done their bachelor's, and this is a great opportunity to step into a master's with the postgraduate requirement kind of under your belt. And that's just to recognise there are also some unique people that haven't done a bachelor's degree, and there is a capacity for you to come into this program. I advise you to check in with the student advisors about the route for doing that. The way that the program is structured then is that there are 2 core courses for the postgraduate certificate. That's SOC-LEAD 706 and SOC-LEAD 703. And for those students that are coming on to do the master's program, you'd then do a 30-point research methods course, and you'd then go on to doing the research project, which is a 90-point research thesis. I've put in there that part-time is ideal for this program. We've structured it so that you can get a master's part-time in 3 years compared to traditional master's programs, which are 2 years and full-time. So I really encourage you to think about doing it part-time. The program is largely delivered online. The 2 core courses are online. They, though, do require some synchronous. So we do sessions together live on Zoom. So they're not just sort of online whenever you want to. They have structured class time and they involve a bit of group work as well. And the research methods course can also be online depending on when you start and if you're full-time or part-time. And that's something to check out with the student advisor when you are applying. In terms of the courses, the Leadership, Ethics and Systems course was designed recognizing that without good leadership, it's impossible to see the effective change that we are all passionate about. And this course is led by Professor Christopher Shea in the school, who has an extremely long pedigree around working in leadership. And it will give you an opportunity to really think about what ethical leadership looks like and how we might lead effectively in the contexts where there are complex systems, and changing one part of the system can sometimes produce challenges in other parts of the system. There's a strong focus on understanding te tiriti o Waitangi and how that fits into effective leadership in this section. In this course, and these classes are scheduled on Fridays in semester 2. In relation to innovation, design and evaluation, I'm lucky to teach this class with my colleague, Dr. Kelsey Dean, and this is very much a hands-on course where we take you through the process of developing a social innovation in response to a recognised need that's there. So it's designed to be a series of workshops that walk you through designing coming up with an issue that needs to be resolved, prototyping solutions, ideating, and developing a theory of change and evaluating how you might explore whether or not that's effective. It's a really fun paper, and again, that's also available online and scheduled usually on Fridays. Always on Fridays, actually. For those students who go on to do the masters, we have probably half the students who move on to do the research components, and there are, on the slide you'll see a few of the research topics that people have explored, and really I just selected some of them to give you the really strong breadth that you'll see that students are doing in the program. I think other than Brian, all of my colleagues here are co-supervising Masters of Social and Community Leadership students who have done that in the past. And there's Helen Robinson, who's now the City Missioner who did her master's with us. She was in the first cohort of the program and used it to really shine a light on food insecurity. In terms of where the MSCL and the PG cert can take you, obviously we have the program orientated towards supporting people doing leadership. It's also well aligned to supporting people working in the space who are wanting to do effective management, who are program designers wanting to affect change in a particular area, those who are interested in evaluation or developing evaluation expertise. Many people working in community development take our program, including those working in education, as well as in policy analysis and social innovation. And then, as I was saying, there's lots of us on the program. We've got people coming into us from arts, from science, from education and law and engineering. There are people working in social work settings, including around homelessness, prisons, domestic violence, youth justice, youth health, adoption, community development, community law. It's kind of endless, which is exciting. Schools, including primary and secondary, ECE contexts as well, including environment and sustainability organisations. And there are a number of students coming in from disaster management and youth health, as well as those working in disability and DHB contexts. So one of the things about social innovation is it really thrives from broad intersectional kind of engagements, and we really love it when we have students from across the board. So if you're worried that you might not be relevant, you probably are relevant, and I really encourage you just to reach out and talk to a student advisor. Now it's my pleasure to hand over to Dr. Brian Rogers, our colleague who leads the counselling program here at the school.
Thanks, John. Really appreciate it. So I'm going to give you a bit of a whirlwind tour of counselling. The counselling program is really designed for people who want to become practitioners. It's very much a hands-on learning, and so we're campus-based with pretty much all of our programs, all of our papers taught face-to-face and so forth. There's a real emphasis on that experiential learning in the classroom, getting to know how to do relational practice and so forth, and also on the research component side of it. And so the whole training is around effectively developing a dialogue between practice and research, that we see them both strengthening each other and so forth. So the Master of Counselling is accredited with the NZAC, which is the national body in New Zealand. And that's I'll take you through the layout of that in a few minutes, and we'll go through it in detail. So there's two different pathways into that. What we would recommend most people do is go through the postgraduate diploma in counselling. That is a point where you can start and stop and take some time out before going on to doing the masters. However, if you're keen and want you to go straight into the masters, effectively the part one, as we call it, of the masters is the same as the postgraduate diploma. It gives you a streamlined process and so forth. So the part two of the masters is very much a self-study process, whereas the part one is a taught process. And both of these pathways lead on to doing the PhD if you so desire. So the entry requirements are a degree, and so it definitely is a postgraduate study. However, we've got a fairly broad range of people that come into this, so education, counselling, nursing, social work, and so forth. But we're very much looking for people who have come through some sort of helping profession into doing that. Now, as well as the degree, we're also looking for people with work experience. And so one of the requirements is a 3-year practical experience in some sort of helping profession. Everybody that comes onto the program goes through an interview process, police checks and so forth. And we do have normally a waiting list into the program. So if you're interested in coming onto the program, we would advise you to begin early. We don't have a mid-year entry point. And so if you're interested in beginning studying in 2023, I would advise you to get in touch with us and to think about applying fairly early in next semester. So the postgraduate diploma, 120 points. Now, the advantage of this is it gives you 2 to 4 years in terms of completing it if you want to do it part-time. It's 1 year full-time as well. As I say, face-to-face delivery, a lot of emphasis on skills. And so we have dedicated skills labs where you actually do the practicum training. You actually do the skills training in small groups. And so you're learning effectively in the classroom before going out onto a placement. Now, a really key part of the training is the actual practicum component. And so from the very first part of the study, you are expected to go out and do real work with clients. We support you in that process. However, it is an important part that you locate a placement that you can go into, that it's well supported and so forth. And the learning is really about learning with clients, learning with the process of doing. We support you in that process. We also have a number of electives, so you can have a specialist study in counselling skills and so forth, or pastoral care, counselling in schools, working with grief and loss, and also family counselling. Now, a feature of the program is that you can also do any elective from any of the courses in the university. So again, talk to us if you've got a specialist interest, and you can develop a specific interest by doing any of the courses within the university. So for the Master of Counselling, as I said, part 1 is equivalent to the postgraduate diploma. The difference is that you've got less time. And so it's only 1 to 2 years part-time, as opposed to 2 to 4 if you want to do it as part of the PG dip. You can exit from the Master of Counselling after the first part of that with the PG dip in Counselling. A really important thing for the program, though, it is a requirement to complete the Master of Counselling in order to become eligible for membership of NZAC. So if you're planning on being a registered practitioner, you do need to complete the Masters. Okay. So the key feature of the part 2 of the program is the research component. And so there's a 90-point research component, 30,000 word dissertation, which is really about your own particular interest in research and an in-depth investigation of that. That is hand in hand with an advanced practicum course, which is 200 hours of supervised counselling practice in the community. After you've done 200 hours of practice, you are eligible for provisional membership. However, you must complete the Masters in order to be eligible for the full NZAC membership. So yeah, some of our destinations for our graduates. We have the privilege of being supporting a lot of school counsellors into practice, and so that's probably our specialisation. But also counsellors in tertiary institutes, NGOs, private practice, and so forth. Counsellors can specialise in loss and grief counselling and palliative care and so forth, or working with families, also substance and addictions abuse and so forth. Healthcare, mental health, ACC counselling, EAP counselling, government agencies and refugee services and so forth. So there's a lot of different areas that people go into from when they graduate. And what we do find is that people have a reasonably high success rate of going into their placements and getting career opportunities out of their placements as well. So one of the things we do ask you to look at is, to really choose your placements wisely, because they do often lead to career opportunities. Okay, I think that's me, and I'll hand you over to Liz.
Thank you, Brian. Kia ora koutou, everybody. It's my pleasure to talk about the social work options. I'm going to talk about the Master of Social Work and the PG dip social work. So my colleague Irene will be talking after me about the Master of Social Work Professional, which is an entry qualification into social work. So the Master of Social Work is a professional development qualification. So in order to get into the Master of Social Work, you do have to have a Bachelor of Social Work degree or an equivalent course that has sort of met the requirements for registration as a social worker in New Zealand. So it's not a pathway to recognition. That's probably the most important aspect of it. So, and Irene will be talking shortly about that option. So to get into the Master of Social Work Professional, Irene will discuss the options for that, but with the Postgraduate Diploma in Social Work, it's equivalent to 1 year full-time study, but most people would do that over 2 years. And the Master of Social Work is either, depending on your entry point, either 1 or 2 years of study. There are a number of different pathways. Some people come into the Master of Social Work with a BSW Honours, and that if you have a BSW Honours, that means that you can go straight into the Masters by thesis, provided your BSW Honours meets our entry requirement. Some people come into the Master of Social Work with a Postgraduate Diploma in Professional Supervision, which Matt will be talking about shortly. That will need to include a research methods course in order to come into the Master of Social Work. But we do have these different options, and I think if you're interested in doing the Master of Social Work but you're unclear about your qualifications, please talk to one of the student advisors and they can refer you on to me if you have some particular questions. Thanks, Sophie. So those are the different options. The Master of Social Work, if you don't have the BSW Honours degree or a PG DIP, including a research methods course, you do need to do that coursework, including research methods. But you then do a thesis, which is equivalent to 1 full year of study. But many of our people who are doing the Master of Social Work thesis are actually working as practitioners. So they're doing it part-time. And that's doable with a busy practice. As Barb said, it requires a certain amount of input and maybe giving up some of your weekends or quite a few of your weekends, particularly at the end of the thesis, but it's very worthwhile in the end. And some of our, just to give you a bit of an idea, the kinds of areas of research that Master of Social Work students are currently doing. I have someone who's looking at the experiences of school counsellors in schools where there isn't social work support, looking at how they are dealing with concerns about children, young people who might be at risk of abuse and harm. I have someone else who's looking at the experiences of older migrants during the lockdowns and whether computer mediated help support systems were actually helpful to those older migrants. And I have someone else who's looking at the experience of newly qualified social workers who started their careers in Auckland during the lockdowns of 2020 and 21 and 22. So those are some of the options that are currently students are currently doing research. The Master of Social Work can lead on to a PhD in social work, and we have quite a large number of PhD students in our school doing a wide range of topics. And one of the things I think I'd take the opportunity to mention is that all of the options that we've talked about tonight, you can go on to a PhD. There are various pathways, and you'll see that you have the option to engage with many of us across the different programs, whether it's counselling or community leadership or social work or professional supervision. You will meet many of us, and that means we have a really big pool of people with incredible range of skills and research histories and research outputs that will give you an indication of our scholarship. That means that we can cover a very wide range of topics, and many of us are supervising research across the school rather than just staying in one particular disciplinary area. And I think that's a strength of our school. So the PhD is an option. Why would you do a Master of Social Work? Well, I think quite a few of the people that I'm currently working with see it as a career development option. They may be very clear that they want to become an educator, and you do require a master's degree, preferably a Master of Social Work, to become a social work educator, because you are working with teaching social workers, teaching programs that will lead to professional registration. Or it may be that you particularly have a passion to research a particular area of practice that you kind of really concerned. You have what I call a tea room question, which is, wouldn't it be good to know a bit more about how this group of clients or service users or caregivers, how we can make life better for them, what are the kinds of things that concern them, how can we improve practice. So it may be simply a passion to do some research, or it may be very much a pathway to a PhD and looking for more of an academic career. So those would be the reasons why you might want to do that. And you can always contact me if you particularly got some particular aspects that you're thinking that you want to research, and we can have a conversation about who and how we might be able to support you in that journey. Thanks, Sophie. So, postgraduate diploma is 1 year full-time, 2 years part-time. Master of Social Work, really how long it takes you depends on the route that you've gained entry, and it's easier in some ways for me to look at individual pathways for people around that, but it's possible to do the postgrad diploma of social work over a longer period of time, take a break, and then come into the Master of Social Work, provided you've got a good GPA and you've done a research methods course. Okay, thanks. So there's a wide range of courses available, because you can take some courses from these other programs. You can take some courses from the professional supervision program, and many people do. You can take some courses from the counselling electives, and we've also had students who've taken some of the social and community leadership courses. But there are other courses. You can always ask us about other options around the university that you might want to explore, because regulations do enable you to have a look at other options. But we do have two areas where we focus quite a bit in terms of courses that are only in the Master of Social Work. We have a couple of courses dealing with child welfare and domestic violence. We have a course looking at health and social justice and social work, another one on grief and loss. And next year we'll be offering, for the first time in a number of years, a postgraduate course that's looking at working with older adults. So we can kind of, there's other options too where we can develop a more of a customized pathway for you, depending on what your interests are. And I think that's my last slide, Sophie, and I'm happy to hand over to my colleague, Dr. Irene DeHaan, who's going to talk about the Master of Social Work Professional.
Oh, thank you, Liz, and it's a pleasure to be with you tonight. Glad to have the opportunity to talk with you about the Master of Social Work Professional, which is a degree that enables people to gain registration with the Social Workers Registration Board. So the focus is on learning the skills and the knowledge that you need to go off and be a social worker in the field of practice that you choose. So as people have said previously, the Master of Social Work Professional gives you the opportunity to be taught by people who really know their stuff. They know what they're talking about, and three of my colleagues are here tonight, Barbara, Liz and Matt, all teach into the Master of Social Work Professional in their various areas of strength and the core courses that we offer. The other thing that's quite important to know is that although the Master of Social Work Professional gives you Social Workers Registration Board registration or provisional registration, it can be used for gaining registration overseas as well. So we do have students who, having got the degree, decide to go to America or Ireland or Australia, and we can, and the UK, we can be involved in helping them to get registration there, to work as professional social workers there. And as with other courses in our school, there is a pathway into doctoral study if people do very well in their academic grades. However, we find that mostly people want to get out into practice, and that's why they're doing the degree. Okay, Sophie, thank you. So the degree is full-time, if you choose to study full-time, it's 2 years. It can be taken over 6 years part-time. And we're really flexible about what suits people best. There's a kind of order that is sensible to follow, and we'll talk with you about that. Full-time study is quite intense. We find that the people in the course typically become quite a little supportive group among themselves and get to know each other quite well. And one of the qualifications for coming into the degree is what's called a cognate degree, which is something that will give you knowledge that you can build on. So very useful to have some kind of social science degree, sociology, criminology, anthropology, those kinds of degrees. Psychology, we get quite a lot of psychology students coming, having decided that they would like to do social work. And just as a quick aside, I think this is a very interesting time to be becoming involved in social work, because there is a lot of change in the sector at the moment in the profession. And so there's opportunities to be part of some really interesting change. The focus is on learning practical skills, as well as some core knowledge about social work and about specialist courses. So grief and loss, intimate partner violence, and actually health, which isn't on this slide, but that is also part of what students are able to learn. There's an elective, either domestic violence or health in the second year. There's a really strong focus on social work's very important focus on social justice and human rights. And because of the need for our graduates to be able to go off and do good social work in whatever field they choose, we have 2 practicums, which are really well supported by our practicum team. There are 4 people in the practicum team, all very experienced social workers. And the first practicum, usually in a non-government agency, is 50 days, more or less, it's full-time, it's 5 days a week. The second practicum, and that's in first year and second semester, and the second practicum is 70 days. It begins towards the end of semester 1 and it's 3 days a week, and it's usually in a statutory agency. So giving people the opportunity to experience working in Orang Tamariki or corrections or health, or perhaps the police, we are beginning to employ social workers. Yeah, so we could just move on, please, Sophie. So the requirements for eligibility to come into the MSW professional is a GPA of 5 in at least 75 points in stage 3 of an undergraduate degree. There is an interview. It's a kind of an opportunity to find out more about the course and for us to find out more about you. It's usually me that interviews people. Sometimes Liz has done that too. Recently, we asked for referee reports, and we have a requirement because of our need for social workers to be vetted for police and children's safety checks, which are done by admissions. So obviously in lockdown, we were doing all the interviews by Zoom. We used to interview face-to-face, but Zoom interviews seem to work really well and gives people who are not in Auckland the opportunity to take part in an interview. It's really, really helpful if students coming into the degree have a New Zealand driver's license, because sometimes practicum providers ask for that. So it just gives you a greater range of opportunities for your practicum. And as with counselling, as what Brian said, it's quite important to think carefully about where you'd like to do your practicum, because quite often students are offered, it's like a doorway into working in that agency. On the other hand, sometimes people want to try something that they haven't got any idea what it might be about. So it's also an opportunity to try something quite new to you. Quite a lot of our students come in with some kind of volunteer experience or work experience in a related field. We get a number of people that have done youth work, or people that have worked as social work research, social work assistants at Orang Tamariki. So, you know, sometimes they know about that field and they want to try something else. All right, thank you, Sophia. So what we're looking for at the end of the degree is people who can think critically about the big questions of how do we, you know, a lot of people coming into social work want to help people, and there's a lot of questions around what exactly that means and how we can do it well. What kind of practice will actually help people, how service provision might be altered and adjusted to better meet needs. So we look for critical thinking, and we also give people opportunities to develop relational practice and the ability to empathize with people. So in the end of the degree, after people complete, they can go into all of those kinds of programs that are on the screen there. Health, covering a large range of different kinds of work, mental health, working with older people, in hospitals, working as hospital social workers. There are some GPs that employ social workers now. The education sector, there is a program called Social Workers in Schools, which is working mostly in low decile schools, and also either working in non-government agencies, so places like Refuge and Shine and other support, you know, like services for men, working in the refugee support services, and also looking at working in the statutory services, which are corrections, Orang Tamariki, and police. So lots of opportunity at the end of the degree. Okay, Sophie. And now, very pleased to be handing over to Matt Rankin, who will tell you about our professional supervision courses.
Thanks, Irene. Kia ora koutou. My name's Matt Rankin. I'm the program leader for professional supervision and senior lecturer. So what is professional supervision? In a nutshell, supervision often isn't done well in helping professions, hence the reason why we have professional supervision courses at a PG Cert, PG DIP level. So professional supervision is about the supervisor working with the supervisee around relationships, self-care, the organisational context for professional practice, and the wider environmental issues that are impacting on the practice. It's therapeutic in nature, but it isn't therapy per se. And it's a very useful tool for developing your practice in an ongoing basis. So it's lifelong. The focus of professional supervision as it's taught within our school is on reflection and learning. So experiential learning and adult learning is very central to the process that we use. What we cover on the core papers of the PG Cert are things around developing a supervision agreement, emotion and feelings, challenging conversations, communication skills and interventions, and a wide range of theories and models in supervision. So supervision is an area that has been around as long as practice has been, and it's gathering a lot of momentum in research out there. So there is a wide range of professionals that use professional supervision. And it's ever growing. So there's people on the course that come from an education background, from a clinical setting. We have GPs, doctors, nurses, occupational therapists. We have counsellors, social workers. So we've had deaf interpreters as well. So there's a wide range of people that are becoming qualified as supervisors, and it's a necessary skill to grow and develop a range of practitioners. So what is the relevance to complete a postgraduate certificate in professional supervision and a postgraduate diploma in professional supervision? What it does is it gives you a qualification to practice as a supervisor. And in a lot of professions, that's becoming more and more of a mandate from an organisational perspective, but also a professional perspective. And having a qualification in supervision means that you can add another string to your bow around being a supervisor yourself, where you can go into your own private practice and be an external supervisor. As I mentioned, there's an interprofessional focus. So what our focus is on the practice of supervision, not necessarily the profession. And that's where you as the student come in and you provide that context of your profession. So the postgraduate certificate is made up of 2 courses. One's around the introduction to professional supervision, and the second course is around advanced approaches to professional supervision, where we talk about some of the specific theories and models. What we have is written assignments, but there's also a very strong applied aspect to the course where we have supervision videos. So you actually record your supervision practice, you display the skills and interventions, and we have a peer review process where you get some critique and some feedback on those supervisory skills, which everyone has. The entry into the professional supervision program is obviously a bachelor's degree and 3 years experience being out in the field. So typically we get people coming into the course that are working full-time or part-time in the profession, and we strongly recommend that the program here is delivered where you are able to attend block day courses throughout the semester, potentially about 1 paper semester while you're working, and it enables you to continue on with part-time or full-time work in between. So continuing on with the program, we've got the postgraduate diploma, which strengthens out the skills and the interventions that we touch upon and the models and approaches used in professional supervision and the core papers that we do. So this year, for example, we've had practice teaching and learning and group supervision. The electives are always changing up. So what's written down here in the slide here is for the elective courses for next year in 2023, where we have critical approaches in reflective supervision and stress and trauma in human services. So myself and Nikki Weld and Liz is also part of the professional supervision program, where we all have quite a number of publications now and experience in the area, and it's also the experience with the people that come into the class. So it's a wonderful way of actually engaging in an interprofessional way. The courses are delivered face-to-face, but there's also areas where we're developing hybrid courses, which means it's a mixture of face-to-face and also online as well. And we're finally in the process of approving a Master's in Professional Supervision and a Master's of Professional Supervision Practice. So one is a thesis-steered research, 180-point thesis, and the other one is more using and utilising the core papers and the elective courses in the professional supervision program. So watch the space. That seems to be kicking off just with a final round of approval probably in the next couple of months. So we're envisaging 2023 or 2024. And that's me. Kia ora. Over to you, Sophie.
Kia ora, Matt. Okay, so now we'll just talk about the funding options. So we have a couple of different options for funding your study. Some students will apply for StudyLink, but in addition to that, There are postgraduate scholarships, and those are split into general, Māori, Pacific, and international scholarships. There are also doctoral scholarships that are guaranteed if you have a GPA of higher than 8. So if you're going into a research program and you have a GPA of higher than 8, then there are guaranteed University of Auckland scholarships. Another option, if you are either a recent supervisor or a current supervisor, so recent would be in the past 12 months, of any of our social work students on placement, then we do have a subsidy agreement where we will subsidise 100% of the fees for one of your courses. So if you're interested in that option, definitely get in touch. It is a great option to take up. And hopefully you have heard something tonight as well that's inspired you to take that next step. So the next step for all of these programs, the initial application is all done online. So to do that, you can go to the main University of Auckland website. There is a banner right up the top that will say apply now. You click on the banner and just go through the online steps. If you do need any assistance either during that process or you're wanting to chat about your postgraduate options at all, you can email pgt@auckland.ac.nz and that will come through to me, and I'm more than happy to have a chat with you from there. For semester 2, 2022, the applications close around the 4th of July. For some of these programs that have interview components, police check components, I'd always recommend that you make your application much sooner rather than later, because sometimes they do just take a while to go through those processes. And applications are also open for semester 1, 2023. So for programs like counselling that don't have a mid-year intake, you're always welcome to apply for those semester 1 intakes for next year as early as possible. It's never too early to apply. And again, if you need any assistance, do feel free to flick me an email. So we do have, I think, a couple of minutes. Yeah, we've got about 8 minutes if there are any questions. I can't see any in the chat box at the moment, but there might be some that come through. There was one about the Master of Social and Community Leadership programs about the taught arrows and elaborating on what that meant. And I think John's answered that in the chat. Yeah, so that's what I would think as well. So what that was saying there is that for this program, the first 3 courses are taught and then you go into research. So it's not a fully taught program. You do have a large research component. It's about half of the program. Some questions that people do ask quite a bit are, if you aren't sure which option is best for you, can you get in touch with someone and have a chat? Yes, you absolutely can. It's that email address just before. So if you do flick an email there, we can always go over which option's the best for you if you're not sure. Okay, well, if we don't have any questions coming through, I think we'll end it there. So I just want to say a massive thank you to our panelists and thank you as well to everyone who made the time to attend tonight. If you do want any more information after this, do feel free to get in touch with us and we can always go from there. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a lovely evening.